So you're heavier than you'd like to be and you're considering the carnivore diet. Are you going 100% or are you going carnivore-ish? That's what I'm going to talk about today, but in order to do that, we need to define some words or terms. And yes, in this health space, words have meanings. That's why you got to be careful what you say. And no, I am not a doctor. No, I'm not an expert. No, I'm not a guru. And I probably won't even influence you. But I do have a lot of experience in trying to figure out what is healthy for myself. And along those lines, I've learned that there is no actual definition for the word health. So I will probably have to make a whole video on it, but the long and the short, I use the definition of health to mean where disease is absent. So basically as good as you can be with what you got and how you're doing things. And then there's the carnivore diet. And what's the definition of carnivore? And I'm going down this trail because I watched a video yesterday where Jesse Choppas was interviewing Professor Bart Kay. And he asked him, what's the best diet, the best way of eating for health? And of course, I don't know if he's a doctor, but he's a professor. He's got at least three postgraduate degrees. They may be all masters, and he may not have a PhD. I don't know, but he's a pretty smart guy. And he said, of course, the best way is to be 100% carnivore, but I can't sit here and tell you that I eat 100% carnivore. And so that's why my name, it was long before that video, I changed my name to Carnivore-ish Chip. But also, long ago, I made a video from a thought I got from Dr. Benjamin Hardy, PhD, who is a organizational psychologist. And the title of the theme of that video was that 100% is a lot easier than 98%. And it did pretty well, but it was also before I left Texas, so that was probably, 3 years ago now? Yeah, I think 3, maybe 4. I think I left in 2022, but it was like February. So a little over 3 years. But the theme, or the thought process is that going all in has a better result and is easier to have a result than kind of doing it half-assed. Pardon my French there, or whatever it is. I don't think assed is French, but anyway, I don't even know why we say that, but you get the point. And things are easier and more effective when you do them fully. So, of course, I'm considering whether I should be carnivore-ish or full carnivore. Then you have to throw in the other aspects that quite often when you start something new in your way of eating, you have a water loss of anywhere from about 5 pounds the first week or so. So you think, oh my goodness, it's doing wonderful. But then you don't have that the rate of return, or ROI is I guess what they use in the stock market, return on investment, declines as you move forward. So yes, it's great to lose 5, maybe 10 pounds the first week. But yes, they're right. It really is only a water weight loss, not a fat loss. So then you have to define weight loss versus fat loss versus skeletal muscle loss, which is sometimes weight loss that isn't fat loss. So as we age, we don't want to be losing our muscles. We want to be maintaining at a minimum, and building is ideal. And the carnivore diet does play a big role in at least maintaining and hopefully building if you do it right and you do it with the right intensity of exercise. So what I'm doing now on a walk and talk is definitely not intense exercise. In fact, it's very minimal and should be called movement, not exercise. because that's another term that needs to be defined, and we'll take a whole video, but suffice it to say in this video that exercise is when you stress your muscles enough in a short enough period of time to elicit the muscle building or protein, what do they call it? Yeah, the muscle response. That's not the right word, but it's got response in it. Anyway, when you have enough, I think it's leucine to trigger your muscles to actually grow. And that does not happen with the way most people work out these days. So, if you're older, you need to learn what exercise is, you need to learn what health is, and you have to decide. And that's another thing. Health and fitness are all often joined together. You know, I go to the health club, which is called blankety blank fitness, because we don't worry about defining things very much. So, I never got around to defining the carnivore diet, which is meat, anything that had a face or came from anything that had a face. So it can be eggs, it can be snake, it can be buffalo, deer, but generally it boils down to beef, which is cow, lamb, sheep, mutton, whatever it's called, depending on its age, fish and seafood, chicken, and pork are the main things people consider meat these days, but it can be any product from any of those that's not highly processed. And then you can add salt and water to make it a truly carnivore diet. So because I've always used spices and I've always eaten a little bit of fermented foods like sauerkraut and sourdough bread, I don't consider myself 100% carnivore, and I think it's starting to have an effect on the health that I want to have. And on my definition of health of being where disease is absent, of course I'm diagnosed with cardiac, what do they call it, cardiovascular disease, because I've had a stroke. So I don't know that I can ever say I am disease free. And that's another thing that Professor K brought up. He got talking about the term insulin resistance, and I really liked his explanation of it, in that insulin resistance is not a pathology. And by when you say something's a pathology, you mean it's something that happens in your body in response to something else. It's basically how things work. And even though, I don't know, maybe insulin resistance is a title more than a pathology, because if you lower the glucose, then you lower the insulin, and the resistance does not matter. It's irrelevant at that point. And so that's, hey puppy, hello. Cute little doggy over there. I don't know if I got it or not. But anyway, that's basically the main benefit of the carnivore diet, is to, if you're only eating meat, you're extremely low carb. As Dr. Ken Berry likes to say, you have turned the carbohydrate control down to almost zero. And Professor K, Art K, said that even meat, even beef, does have a very, very minimal amount of carbs, but it doesn't say so on the label, because in the US, if it's less than 1, you can say it's 0. And then there's a whole video I need to make on whether carbohydrates are essential or not. And essential means you have to consume them because you can't make them. So no, they are not essential because we can make them. And we do make them enough. We make enough to supply the daily demand, which is, I've heard different numbers, 80 grams, 90 grams, but the RDA, I don't like going by RDA because the definition of recommended daily allowance in the US government guidelines is enough not to have a deficiency, which that means you're surviving, not thriving. So their RDA for carbohydrates, even though you only need about 80 or maybe 90, and your body will make that and probably more, they put a buffer on. So they say the recommended daily allowance of carbohydrates is 130, which still would technically be a low carb way of eating. But nobody in this country eats 130 grams of carbs unless they try to eat low carb, because generally the average carb intake in the United States is a little over 300. So people get all upset, oh, we don't follow the RDA on carbohydrates, but you know what the RDA for protein is? It's like 0.3 of a gram per ideal body weight, which the standard or the recommended is closer to 1 gram per pound of body weight, but nobody gets upset about that. So anyway, here again, words have meanings, and I'm walking up by somebody doing some power washing, so you may hear that machine ramping up and cutting down, and another 2 ladies with dogs coming down the streets. I'm in the neighborhood I'm pet sitting in. But so anyway, this was about whether you should do 100% carnivore or call yourself something different, like carnivore-ish or carnivore adjacent. And does it really matter? I'm going to fall in the column that says what you call yourself doesn't matter. Oh, it's getting really loud. Let me pause this. Okay, hopefully that didn't end it and I have to splice it or something. But anyway, you're not a card-carrying member of the Carnivore Diet Club, so it can't be taken away. You know, people say, well, take my card away. Things like the Communist Party have card-carrying members and stuff like that, and some political parties in America want to think that you have cards to designate who you are, but you really don't. So anyway, let's not apply that to our way of eating. No. Let's just do what is best for you, and I'll do what's best for me. So whether you're 100% or not, but back to Professor K's talk, he said the best way that he thinks he should be healthy, and those, I think all 3 of those postgraduate degrees, or maybe they call them graduate degrees, after undergrad, so postgrad degrees, or in stuff like exercise physiology, nutrition, that kind of stuff. So he knows a lot about what makes the body tick, and he's not a spring chicken. He's at least in his 50s, so been around a while, much more of an expert than I am. But his 5 tips were 100% carnivore. Second one was a nutraceutical that he is a member of and sells, so that's kind of neither here nor there. Apparently it does something with adult stem cells, which is probably a good thing to look into, but not necessary. Third was grounding, which I try to do by going in the ocean, which allows the charge in your body to be dissipated because of the negative grounding on the earth. So when you get in touch with the tree, a dog on the ground, barefoot in the sand, lay down in the sand, get in the ocean, your body basically discharges let's see, number 4 was in high intensity exercise. Here comes a car. I'll let them pass. And number 5 is escaping me at the moment. Let me see. Anyway, I try to do all of those things. High intensity exercise, grounding, carnivore, and I don't know, maybe the last one, I'm not going to say it was to eat the highest quality of meat you can afford and have access to. You can't always get grass-fed, grass-finished. And he did mention, and I agree with this, that the nutrient difference is there, but it's so minimal, you don't have to make the effort to go broke over it. That's the easiest way to put it. And I think this is getting kind of long, so I should wrap it up. So, long story short, do you have to be 100% carnivore to see results? And results is one of them words that I'm not defining at the moment. You know, it may be 100 pounds of weight loss. It may be living a year longer. It may be not having muscle pain or joint pain every morning when you wake up. So that's up to you, because every person is different and results depend on the person. So I'm going to say, like he does, yes, it's best, but we're all human, so we do make mistakes, and those mistakes do harm us. I was watching a video by Dr. McGuff that wrote the book Body by Science, and he said to make mistakes is human, but it can have the death penalty. Or to make mistakes is not illegal, but it can have the death penalty. And that's because some mistakes you make are irreversible. Others just shorten your life. So I'm not saying that not going 100% carnivore is criminal, should be criminal. Hopefully not, because I don't do it. But I'm also not saying it's a death penalty. It could shorten your life, but that would mean that carnivore extends your life, and I don't think anybody really knows that, because we don't have nobody wants to pay to study somebody eating meat and see if they live longer or not. So you have to be your own judge on a lot of these things. I'm going to try to push this button and see if it'll cut it off, so it may take just a second for it to reconnect. But anyway, do the best you can. Enjoy the time you have left. And thank you for watching. God bless. Bye-bye.